Now comes a video about Footsies. Extra tools to have at your disposal in the interactions between your buttons and the opponent's buttons. I'm not going to go over much that involves like reads and manipulation and things like that here if I can avoid it. I'm just going to try to explain how the things work for this video. So in your Footsies interactions, you have to understand hitbox, hurtbox interactions. A hitbox is the attack of a move where the move is striking and for how long, and the hurtbox is where you can be struck by an attack. Some moves are much easier to whiff punish than others due to hurt boxes, but also some moves are easier to stuff on startup than others due to hurt boxes. Some moves have a hurt box that's high up, some moves have a hurt box that's low to the ground. Here, take a look at this interaction. Alrighty, so if we record, Cammy doing medium punch, heavy punch. About that spacing, I don't know. Yeah, that should be the right timing. So if I walk backwards, I still have to block it, but if I do a fireball, it pulls back my hurt box. So near my stomach, near my chest, around that spacing, I can evade stuff. Now, not all fireballs are like this, and just because it's good at pulling back this mid-hurt box backwards doesn't mean that it's free from hurt box worries. But if I'm right here, this heavy kick whiffs, but if I throw a fireball, I get crush countered because it extends my hurt box up there, and let's do something like that. So if I crouch block, it doesn't reach me, but if I throw a fireball, it extends my ankles, and then I get hit by that buffer. So it's important to know which tools the opponent is more or less likely to use and which tools you should use that beats the opponent's hurt box extensions. This also helps us figure out which moves tend to be better or worse in general. Ideally, we want a move that is fast, has a lot of range, and has very limited hurt box extensions, which is obviously just wishful thinking. If a move's hurt box extends forwards a lot before the attack lands, it tends to be a bit worse in the neutral because it'll lose more easily to other tools if nothing else happened. Let's take a look at this interesting example. So in this situation, I can get unique combos due to the unique spacing that I couldn't normally get if I was point blank. Now, all this comes to say that if something is giving you trouble, you should become a bit more intimately familiar with how it works. At a basic level, Footsies is just knowing which buttons you have that are good and which ones you maybe shouldn't use too much in, knowing which ranges your character should throw them at, which characters you're strong at, and then knowing which ranges the other character is strong at, respectively. Now, people will tell you to position yourself maybe right around or right outside of your opponent's longest attack that you can react to, at least. This has truth to it, but don't take this too literally. You can play around with space a lot more than just taking, like, one precise range. Don't be too rigid in your playstyle, especially if your skills are not refined enough to really execute everything perfectly and whiff punish everything to the best of human ability. That's not going to happen. If you have a game plan that involves playing with more space, don't feel so pressured into playing at the opponent's Footsies range, especially if your character excels at a different range. After all, if you just flat out lose Footsies against another character, no matter where you position yourself, it's often better to change your game plan up to find different means of playing neutral if possible. Don't slam your head into a brick wall if you can avoid it. But anyways, yes, to play Footsies, you generally want to play in ranges where you can move without accidentally walking into an attack. So move around freely outside the opponent's attacks that you can't react to. Sometimes this is more frequent in low-level play, but sometimes people will just be throwing out the most ludicrous shit like this. Now, if the opponent is prone to doing this, just block a bit more and make sure it hurts when the opponent does this, and the risk-reward should heavily favor you over time, even if you get hit by a few of those here and there. Just don't let this deter you from playing the game as you're supposed to play it, or let it ruin your defense by panicking when you get hit by things you feel you shouldn't have gotten hit by. The worst thing that can happen if you run into something like this that goes against your understanding and your expectations of what you're comfortable playing against is you can't just stop and only focus on countering this one weird thing they're doing. If you're made to abandon your game plan entirely and only focus on baiting out or countering this one annoying thing, your game plan won't grow, and it'll be easy for someone to exploit you by making you very passive, just through doing a few nonsense things here and there. Stick to your game plan, stick to all your tools, don't let others stop you from playing more or less how you normally play. But in general, study the buttons or other moves that are likely to happen, learn what moves you have that beat those, and then start thinking about risk-reward. Think about how much value you can get out of your neutral. Maybe you have a move that's a bit riskier and less likely to beat the opponent's button, but if it does, there's a much bigger payoff in terms of damage and positioning. This might be worth doing sometimes. Now, if you see your opponent doing a lot of this, where the risk is high if you get it wrong and your button gets crush countered or whatever, you should definitely approach them with caution. Diligently practice beating this move consistently enough so that you end up getting more value over time and can deter them from doing it. Deterring opponents from using their scariest and most awkward options in Footsies is important to letting you have the breathing room to feel comfortable doing more things. So, either practice whiff punishing this by learning the animation and the spacing you need to perform this action, or enter into the range of this move and block it over and over to create a repeating scenario. So in this situation, if I keep entering into the range and he keeps doing this medium kick, I mean, there are a number of ways I could do. I'm not, completely limited to doing that, but it's if I'm playing outside the range, it's threatening for him because I can hit his extended hurt boxes. If I'm inside the range, there's a couple things I can do. But one of the main things is if I keep walking in and out of this, furthest range, and I keep getting him to hit the same button over and over, either he stops hitting the same button, for which he has to make some differences or make some adjustments, and he has to guess on which other thing he's going to do, or if he keeps doing the same thing over and over. Any point I can adjust to the pattern and just do a slight walk back and punish that exact scenario. Now, a lot of the time, if you're trying to whiff punish something, you can just react to it and hit the button, and even if you're too close, most buttons are fast enough that you'll block it anyways, okay? So go for the whiff punish even if you can clearly see that you're too close and you're going to block it. Let's talk a little bit about Footsies, deterrent options, like fireballs or maybe like Honda's headbutts. This isn't a zoning video, so I won't really talk too much about how to beat fireballs or any of those options, but just so you have an idea of where to use them yourself, fireballs impact the Footsies game because they create this giant hitbox of a fireball that keeps traveling forwards. So imagine like a button with Footsies, but with infinite active frames. That's a fireball. Fireballs aren't invincible to all Footsies buttons, but in general, if you're expecting a lot of button presses, and you're a bit outside the range of the attacks you're expecting, a fireball is a great tool to beat most buttons that they could press, or at least limiting the buttons that they could press. An extremely important tool of Sakura's is creating a scenario in which, like if the opponent's doing, and she doesn't really want to mess with that strictly, it's like, oh, try to, whiff punish it, or, get hit. No, any footsie scenario that she might be losing, or you can just beat it. It's no trouble. EX Fireball is extremely important for Sakura. Now we move on to the concept of buffering, which you may or may not have been employing into your game plan already. But if not, let me explain. So buffers are extremely important in let's create a guard all. Guard recovery action. Bears, let's do crow or stand jab. Or now stand light kick, or maybe stand medium kick. A bunch of this crap. So a lot of these things, it's like, let's say the opponent does like this action or something. You know, if I do a button and then I input a special move, it won't come out unless I make contact. So I can do it real fast like that. And if the opponent extends their hurt box into my move, let's do it with another thing. So beats that if they reversal with that. So you would call this, like, a lot of the times you might call this something like a space trap. So it's like, I would do maybe something like this. Like if I do this around this range, it'll push them so far back that they'll think they can reach. And then they can't, and then I do a predetermined action. So buffers are great in general, especially if you can do them off of very safe buttons like lights. So some characters have lots of space traps in situations like this. So if I do this, and he's like, so if I keep harassing him, oh, that's a space trap, it'll whiff punish him. Auto whiff punish. If I buffer this light kick, it'll auto go through to beat that move. So yeah, buffering lights is really good. So light kick, buffer, light kick, buffer, light kick, buffer. Oh, hit him. I would especially start using buffers if you're expecting the opponent to dash in on you a lot. Buffers are good to stop forward movement and catching the extended hurt boxes of certain buttons or the startups of certain buttons. You know, swinging just outside of what will make direct contact with the opponent is generally a good opportunity to use a buffer, since most normals will tend to extend their hurt box at least a little bit on startup, especially near the ankles. So we're going to take a look at some of the startup hurt boxes for Vega. So right now, let's do medium kick, crouch medium kick like that. Or rather, let's do something that's plus, actually. So let's do crouching medium punch, standing heavy punch, but in a range where it'll whiff. So if he does nothing, it'll do that. Let's see if so if he does jab, so it'll lose there. If I do that, oh, it wins. So in all these ranges where it'll normally whiff, like that. So which means I can create this scenario and auto buffer my heavy punch, because I know that it's not going to make contact if he blocks, like so. And any of the reversal buttons he sticks out are going to lose. Almost any. So study accordingly for each situation you feel the need to improve at. And after that, I'd like to discuss an important aspect of basically anything that requires reaction speed, and that is creating a single moment of focus. This kind of dips a little bit into teaching about mental state, but it dictates a lot about how you play footsies. Basically, if you know when to look for something, your reaction speed will drastically increase. Try to create very specific situations in which you expect very specific results. Like, if the opponent tends to do the same button after the same block string, you can look for it specifically and react to it if you train yourself to do so. Alrighty, so in this scenario, let's say, this is not going to be very common, but let's say an Akuma player does this after a block string, so if I try to take, like, my turn, like, oh, I see, and that's going to crush counter me in the same scenario that I just, like, showed with Cammy or whatever. So it's like, if I just wait this out, I can react to it and punish it in this scenario. And if he doesn't do anything, I'm going to wait. When you're looking to react to a specific move, your first step is to figure out where to look. You know, like what animation nuance it has. You might think for something like, say, Akuma's standing heavy punch, that maybe you should look to how far his fist travels or something to react to the move. But his fist comes out pretty late into the move, since it's not like a 4-frame move or anything. It's not the best thing to look at in order to react and whiff punish it. Instead, I would look at Akuma's body and his stance and see anything you can see that instantly changes as soon as he triggers his attack. It can be something as small as like the specific way his foot turns or his position during an attack. It doesn't matter, so long as it's distinct enough from his other animations and immediate enough that in the move's animation you can tell right away what attack he's doing. For instance, like Armika, I identify Armika doing crouching medium kick because it's the only move where she places her palm on the floor Okay, she places her palm flat on the floor, and this happens immediately as soon as the animation starts. And that's what I look to react to that move. This isn't necessary when you're first starting out, of course, since it's difficult to do this kind of shit without a training extensively for it. But keep in mind, if you want to react to something faster, first you should study the animation in training mode to find a clear visual indication you can focus on. Once you become acquainted with the startup animations of all the various attacks, it becomes easier to see when you're about to strike an opponent out of their moves in Footsies, which will happen very often. And with this, we come to a more advanced form of hit confirming and circumstantial hit confirming. So the human reaction speed is around 14 to 15 frames, or a little faster than that, depending on the person and the quality of their focus. After you react to something, then you have to mentally process what to do based on that reaction. These are all things that you can manage through practice, finding ways to control your brain's quality of focus, and through little mental cheat sheets, which I'll now be discussing. Let's take a relatively easy one. Let's look at Urian's standing heavy punch. Now, I already did a video about hit confirming, or single hit confirming, a while ago, where I demonstrated some techniques that you can use, but let's just... So, right now, there should be random. Yeah, so he's randomly going to get hit, or randomly going to block. So when we get the hit, we're going to cancel. So, a couple ways you can do this. You want to have, like, most of the motion already done, so I'm already holding back to begin with. And then when I see the hit, I just hit forward in the button. I also have, like, a number of context clues that I can look for. I can look at the hit spark. I can look at the stun gauge up at the top. That'll fill up on the hit. I can listen, if I had audio on, I could listen to the sound effect. A lot of people use that for hit confirming. And beyond that, I would just watch, I already explained everything in the other video about how to optimize your hit confirm, so. This is all stuff you can look up on any site that has, like, cancels and frame data for every character. You can see some moves are special cancelable, some moves are V-trigger cancelable, some moves are super cancelable, some moves are target combos, and most moves have some combination of these. Even if a move has a small window to special cancel, it might have a big window to V-trigger cancel sometimes. So Akuma's Crouch, let's have it on random. Yeah, Akuma's Crouch medium punch. Maybe hit confirmable. It would be very tricky to do so. I don't know. It seems like within the range, maybe like 14 or 15 frames. Oh, actually it is pretty hit confirmable. But anyways, the point is, it's much easier to trigger cancel it than it is to special cancel it. Much bigger window. And then you can combo it into something like that. So, learn what you can hit confirm and into what. Whatever you feel comfortable doing reliably. You always want to be aware of the furthest range moves you get decent reward from, normal or counter hit. So in neutral, it's very important to know where your longest range, like, counter hit confirm is. So if you're, like, here, well, other than just crush counters, because, like, all the crush counters will generally give you, like, knockdowns or good stuff. But instead, so what's your longest range, like, other just counter hit tools? So you can hit confirm that. You can single hit confirm that. But beyond that, long range, you have that. That's your furthest range one. Or if you punch in with that and it's a counter hit, you can link off of it. You can jab in with that, light punch, and if it's a counter hit, you can combo off of it. A little bit closer, you can do that. If it's a counter hit, you can combo off of it. At precise spacings, you can do that. Heavy kick and combo off of it. And yeah, just figure out where your longest range counter hit stuff will work from. Now, let's take context into this equation. Go ahead and pick Cambi in training mode and set up this situation. So a lot of your hit confirming, even if you're not using single hit confirmable moves, will be done in these circumstantial situations. So I'll have him do reversal button. So what I'm going to do medium guard all. Have him guard, recover, and to just blocking for the next one or doing nothing. So this is what we're going to do. We're going to have him do both. And when we see an attack button, I don't know. His crouch jab kind of looks almost no different from his regular crouching. So let's do, like, I guess stand jab or something, since it's more visually distinct. So when we see him do an attack startup or something, some attack startups are more clear than others. Here, let me see if he has a really clear one, so it'll be easier to demonstrate. I don't know, all of his animations for his lights are so, like, nothing. There. You can see, like, his leg starts to come up, a freeze frame. And you can use that animation ahead of time in order to hit confirm. Whatever. It should be easy. Maybe I'm just off my game today, or maybe the controller's doing weird shit again. There we go. So, when you're in Footsies, when you're doing block strings, and in lots of places, you can incorporate these faster reaction to hit confirms. When you see clearly, before anything makes contact, that your move is going to hit the opponent's move, be sure to be thinking about confirming it already. You can create these little focus situations in Footsies to be able to react and whiff punish moves you normally couldn't. Opponents will often have panic buttons that they do when they poke out, or when they're on defense. They'll usually have these pre-decided buttons to poke out with if they feel the need to do so. So you can look up those specific situations and beat them. Alright, so we're going to practice whiff punishing, so we're going to have doing nothing versus doing, I don't know, stand heavy punch, crouch medium kick. Let's try those for a second. Alright, seems easy enough. Okay, crouch medium kick. Yep. Alright, whiff punish. And if you can't whiff punish something, you might just decide to take your turn. This happens a lot against, say, neutral jumps, for instance, like I already talked about. If the opponent neutral jumps and you aren't in a position to anti-air them, you might stay out of range of their jumping button and then poke at them when they land so they can't do anything. If the opponent whiffs a button, and then they tend to mash out another button after their whiff, focus on the whiff, and then take your turn to stuff out the counter hit of whatever they mash next. You can condition opponents to get docile after whiffing buttons this way, and it makes them easier to control and approach. Alright, so like this was from a match where I played from, in doing recordings for, writing this video, where I was like, what is the minimum amount of, like, tools or ideas I can apply and still, you know, generally construct a game plan that will rise through the ranks. So this was another such case. So right now I have, like, basically I'm not inputting, like, I'm not doing special moves, I'm not punishing anything really. I'm mainly just hitting, like, heavy kick and occasionally throwing if they block a lot, and that's, like, my main game plan. So this is a very, that was an accidental input. So this is a very abusable technique from this player here, the neutral jump to create a scenario and control that space. And without using special moves with Cody, it can be or precise, like air-to-airs to react to and jump up and hit him. With jump, medium punch, heavy punch target combo, it can be pretty difficult for Cody to beat this. So this is me inching forwards, and other than that, just like taking my turn basically. So every time he lands, I poke at him. Yeah, let me do like round 2 or something. So yeah, very safe, not really doing much. Poke at him, he lands, poke at him, cover the space, waited for him to do something there. Lands, went up, took my turn there because I conditioned him not to do anything. Condition him, walk forward, anti-air, so on. But just like with whiff punishing, Only do this when you are prepared to take the turn. If you react too late, which is usually the idea with these kinds of whiffs, you'll just get hit by the next button they mash out. Baited hook, line, and sinker. There's one more thing to note about this concept, and that is the idea of overlapping special moves. See, sometimes you might cancel a button into a special regardless of if it's hit or blocked. Like if you play a fireball character, you're frequently going to poke with a button canceled into a fireball. But maybe when you see that you're going to land your attack, you might want to cancel it into a different special instead. Not only would this be pretty difficult to do reaction-wise, it's flat out just isn't possible in most circumstances. If you've already inputted a special move or a V-skill or a super or anything like that, you aren't really allowed to change your mind in this game, except in one specific way. If you input a regular special, you can input an EX special and have that move come out instead, so long as it's done before the game takes the original input. Let me show you this in action. So if I put counter hit on normal or anything, if I put counter hit on random, there we go. On the crush counter, I got EX. But on the regular one, I got light. Because I'm doing an option select where, since the crush counter has more slowdown, I'm doing an EX. I'm changing my input halfway through from an EX to a regular. So I do light, then EX with my inputs there. So light punch, then all three punches button. So if I get a crush counter, comes out as EX. So some characters can make use of this concept very sparingly, like Poison can use it in a very helpful way, Sakura can use it in her block strings, but most of the cast currently don't have good tech to make use of this concept. But it does exist. Now, again, Footsies doesn't exist in a vacuum. If your opponent's idea of neutral is mainly just jumping at you, you're going to have to punish them for that behavior before you can engage them in Footsies. Jumping is a legitimate option in the game and can get over a number of buttons on the ground, especially ones with lots of recovery. However, it is important to note that even if two buttons have the exact same recovery time, if one is crouching, it's inherently better at being safer from jump-ins than the standing one, especially for taller characters that will get hit sooner from jumping attacks. Beyond that, just because the opponent's jumps doesn't mean they become invincible right away to your buttons. Some buttons just hit higher into the air than others, and you can take advantage of this in situations where the opponent is likely to jump. Chun-Li has lots of moves that hit very high into the air, so it's difficult to jump out of her pressure. So right here, I can't jump out of that because it'll clip me, as opposed to like some other characters, where, like, if Falk does anything, you can probably jump over it. After that, we come to the more extreme version of hitbox-hurtbox interactions, and those are low crush and low profile options. Low crush moves are attacks that simply cannot be touched by moves that are too low to the ground, usually moves that actually hit low. Some moves can do a bit more than just low crush, though. So a lot of characters might have trouble getting around. Nash is really good for medium kick now. I mean, he can anti-air you if you like neutral jump like this or anything. Can't backdash in this situation neutral jump if I throw out a button or something. It's kind of hard to beat it. But if I forward heavy punch over it, and low profile is what happens when your character is so low to the ground that they can't be touched by certain moves. So let's say Gil has lots of moves that he likes to block strings or stuff that'll end in like a standing medium punch poke or something. So let's say like that. So it'll be like +2, and then I'll go into that. And it'll hit me really high in the air if I try to jump out. If I heavy kick or something, take up that space. Has a faster startup, but it's very easy to low profile. This requires an understanding of both what can low profile other moves and what moves can be low profiled. Your best tool against all of this is usually movement. If your character moves quickly, you can be at any position you want to much faster than others. If you can escape the range of your opponent and make them whiff their attacks, you can suddenly be much closer to them than they're comfortable with. All these things help you. Speed is a major factor in Footsies. And even against options like fireballs and jump-ins, all of that, moving fast lets you get into ranges that it's easier to anti-air from or go underneath someone who thought they could jump in on you. Footsies is largely about spacing, and faster characters control that spacing. Never underestimate the power of movement speed. Now, you want to control the space of your opponent when you're in close combat range, and generally you have two ranges that are advantageous to you. You want to avoid being in between those two ranges. If you're plus and really close to your opponent, you can probably do a frame trap. If you're just outside of your opponent's range and plus, it's risky for them to throw out a poke, because you might whiff punish it either on reaction or with a read using like a buffered normal. So I'll just go ahead and use the example that Zaffarino uses in his where he talks about Footsies. And so in this situation, it's like I want to either be in range for a frame trap like this, so it's like I'm +4 and I can frame trap him. That's great. But like let's say I'm right here, so I'm like +1. How does that help me though? I'm plus, but I can't frame trap him. And let's say he has trigger ready to go. Am I going to frame trap him to stop him from activating trigger? You know, like if I do, like, if I'm +3 here. No, I'm not in range to frame trap him. He's going to do that, and if I block, he's going to slide and he's going to activate trigger, so that's not good. So what's the point in being plus in this situation if I can't frame trap him? I mean, I can, with this button at least I can cancel into a fireball and create some more space, so that would be ideal. So basically there's like, if I'm plus, I want to be close enough to frame trap him, or I want to be far enough away that I don't have to deal with his crap, you know? If I'm +3 here, but I can't frame trap him or do that much, what's the point in being plus? Now I'm just in an awkward range where I'm not even necessarily at the advantage. Look, my light kick whiffs at this range. What's the point of doing this? So if you're applying pressure, it's important to keep this in mind. You wanna make sure that you do things that will give you like either legitimate frame traps. If you're gonna press a plus on block button, you want to be close enough to do like a real frame trap with it. Or if you're not going to have that option, you would rather do something with more pushback so that you can back off and let their next attack whiff. So if he's going to be doing this guard recovery action, instead of trying to be plus at a closer range that sucks, I'm going to do that. In a similar sense, there's lots of scenarios where you can trick the opponent into thinking that you're closer than you are, using the animations, or trick them into thinking that that you're further away than they are if they're not intimately familiar with the scenario and the animation looks weird. For example, there's a lot of situations where Sagat, in particular, will land like a walk-up tick throw, because he'll do walk-up light kick, and so he'll do like walk-up light kick and then like a throw or something. So it's like a... So if he just walked up for a throw, they would tech, obviously, if they're looking for it. But if he does walk-up light kick, it's actually really easy for him to land the throw after that. So anyways, the point is, because he does walk-up light kick, if he does a point-blank light kick, obviously they know. Like if he's in a meaty situation, they know that that's like a legitimate setup. But if he walks up and does a light kick, it's harder for them to tell. Maybe he's not close enough to actually throw them, because when he does light kick, he kind of leans his body back, and it doesn't look like he's that close to them. Look, when he does it, it looks like he does walk up light kick. It looks like he's much further away visually than he actually is. So you can sneak in some throws, because he doesn't look like he would be in range to immediately tick throw, and they're not going to even try to tick because they don't think he can throw. So that's a situation where lots of players use the animation to trick the opponent into misjudging the spacing, either to make them think they're closer or make them think they're further away. Similarly with like lots of characters, like Akuma can do this with other characters can do it. I mean, like Karen can do like stand medium punch and has a lot of pushback. Akuma can do like a really point blank. Here, let me demonstrate with my character. So I can create whiff punish situations by doing walk up, stand, medium kick. If I'm like in this range and I do stand, medium kick, it looks like I'm pretty close to the opponent, because stand, medium kick leans you forward, you know, all this stuff. It looks like you're really like you're within this range, but actually you're this far away when she finishes the move. So you can create situations where you can create whiff punishes. Your character might not be plus at all, but if you put yourself in your dominant range, you could still have control. Now, Sakura, even if she's minus, even if she's like in this range or something, you know, she does like light kick, she can pester. Her light kick as a 4-framer is so insanely far. Like, this is another 4-framer. That's still pretty long for a 4-framer, this jab, and it goes like half the distance that light kick does. This light kick is insane. So any situation where like -2 or whatever in this situation, in this range, stand light kick is probably gonna still beat him. You know, you can do like light kick EX, and it's like, yeah, you're minus, but like your button is just flat out way faster for the range that it is, so you are dominant in that spacing. Even if you're whiffing attacks or something, you can still do your dominant attack, and you may as well just be like the plus person, even if you had just whiffed an attack. Same with heavy kick. She's really dominant in the spacing where her heavy kick hits and where her light kick hits. And the frame data matters a lot less than the fact that her moves are just flat out better than most other characters in these two spacings. So those are the situations where once she puts herself in, even if she's minus, she wants to put herself in those ranges and then just abuse. And in a similar way, just because you aren't right at the correct range, quote-unquote, for your move, doesn't mean that you shouldn't use it. If your move is just flat out better than your opponent's move in the range that you're at, you can go for it. So, for instance, a lot of Balrog players, you know, they're like, they might, like, I've played a lot of, like, low-ranking Balrog players online. They do not do EX dash punch unless they've been, like, walking back, like, they only play the style in which they try to tempt someone into following them, and then they do EX straight. EX straight is dominant in a lot of ranges, not just like this range where it'll still like its ideal range where it connects and it's still really fast. You know, this is like the range that they think EX straight is good for. It's good all the way up here. If you're here, guess what? It's probably better than the opponent's actions. It's probably faster and reaches further than the opponent's actions in this space. You can use it. It's plus on block anyways. Just use it. It's better. It wins. Beyond that, there is an aspect of unpredictability in Footsies. Say, if you do a well-spaced dash punch as Balrog to your opponent, and almost every time you do this you backdash immediately afterwards, in this case, it becomes much more annoying for the opponent to actually start anything. Psychology plays a big role. All you did as Rog was move forwards and then go back to reoccupy the space you had to begin with, taking advantage of the space resource behind you. But the opponent will find it very frustrating to do anything to start their own offense when you always preemptively backdash away from Footsies' range. Footsies, this is extremely important and determines like all of where you position yourself, but Footsies is not the range of your and your opponent's attacks. Footsies is more accurately the range of a forward dash plus the range of your attacks. So, you should be swinging not in a range, like not always, you should be completely comfortable swinging in the range where you expect to dash forwards. Like if you're nowhere near the opponent, you should swing because it might be calculated to beat the range of an opponent dashing and then hitting a button. You have a wide range that you can play it in Footsies, and you can be dominant both in the range that your moves are superior and in the range where a dash plus your moves are superior. Forward dashing is not a counter hit state. It's very safe to do for a lot of characters. It's much safer than you might feel like it is. Most people are generally anxious at moving forwards. Dashing is really strong in this game. So Zangief is really dominant where his crouch jab reaches and his standing medium punch is like harassing at this distance, and his EXSPD range. So you actually want to play in like this range right outside, or maybe slipping in and out of EXSPD range, because a lot of the time, I mean, obviously, like I'm trying to say here, you want to be more, you know, confusing with your spacing, especially against someone like Zangief if you want to abuse your mobility that is going to be superior to his. But so it's like you can throw out these moves like this because it might catch your dash up at that range. See, his dash would reach here, so it's perfectly valid to throw this normal in this range. All sorts of stuff like that. And a lot of your offense with most characters with decent dashes or anything, is going to be started throughout this game by, like, being back, like, either inching forward, like here, and getting into your pokes, or being back here and getting a dash up into one of your longer range pokes. That's, like, the majority of how you're going to start your offense and such. But, like, let me demonstrate to you. So let's say the opponent does that. So if I'm within this range, here, let me do a neutral one. So I'll turn on both of these, and I'll punish his dash. However, if I'm back here, oh, I can't interrupt it with that really fast light kick anymore, that really fast target combo, because I'm not quite in range, but he's still in range for his SPD. So if I'm trying to stuff his dashes or anything, if I react to one of his dashes back here, with like a light or something in surprise, he's still going to beat me because his range is just superior. He enters into the range where he's more dominant, rather than into the range where whoever's the frame advantage is more dominant. So even though he has the frame disadvantage because he just dashed, he's still going to get me. So that's a lot of, like, where he wants to be. He wants to be in ranges where he can, his forward movement will put him into his ideal spacing. He's uncomfortable if he's this close. In a similar sense, he might want to, like, jump at you. So let's say I'm this close to him, I'll just anti-air him. But if I'm this close, I'll anti-air. Oh, wait! He did a light kick to pull back his hurt box. Now I'm getting a command thrown. So if I stop anti-airing him, then he's going to start going for these jumping heavy kicks or something to get his way in. So he wants to be at the space where his forward movement options, like his forward dash or his forward jump, will place him into his ranges where his options are superior. He doesn't want to be too close or too far away. Playing with this spacing, not just the space of that your character occupies, but understanding where to attack in case the opponent does a dash up attack, or you want to dash up, means that you have much more room to play with, and you can be much less predictable with where you play. Alrighty, so this is a match from Pugera, who is very good with his spacing. So here, let's... Round one. Fight. So Jash straight, and then he immediately moved forward. He got the hit. He moved forward. He does a basic frame trap. Backdash. He didn't have to backdash. He isn't in range, but he's taking into account, okay, he does something that's like minus whatever, -2. He backdashes, you know, so if Blanca does a Blanca ball or even like a slide or something, it's going to whiff, right? And he constantly keeps that space. Now, he can still play from here, both with dash punches and dash up into like a low-medium kick. You know, he has those options. Dash up, crouch medium punch, and he got a counter hit, he confirms it. So he's playing in this space between the ranges where his normals work and the ranges where his dash up into normals work and his dash punch ranges. So all this space he's occupying, which makes his mobility incredibly unpredictable. So he just whiffed a button and then backdashed. Playing at this space, dash punch. He didn't backdash there. He did a little micro walk backwards into a crouch medium punch, most likely buffered it. Especially since he clearly wasn't holding on to charge, since the next action he did was backdash. If you backdash, you give up your charge. So he probably did his crouching medium punch, buffer into a charge forward move, or back charge move, and then backdash. He's playing at this range, dash up, counter hit confirm. A dominant range for EX thing. He actually could have gotten a combo off that trade that's incredibly plus on trades. Walk backwards. Now, one of the reasons Pugera can do this is because he is, like, the best in the world at hitting those light screw smash anti-airs, which are not easy to get. So he can anti-air from really far away. So just, instead of backdashing there, he did a little walk back into a thing that beats it. So Nishkin, think about Nishkin's perspective. Every time he, like, blocks something that Pugera does that puts him in this space, what's he going to do? Is he going to move forwards? Well, maybe Pugera's just going to attack him again, especially if he has EX meter. His EX dash straight is plus on block and will be dominant in all this space. So is he going to move forwards after he blocks, like, a dash straight or a crouching medium kick? Is he going to dash forwards to try to take advantage of that space? What if he doesn't backdash? What if he just sticks at another button or does a delay button or something? Is he gonna swing? Like, what if he doesn't attack at all? Pugera could just do a move and then continue to move forwards, even if it's minus on block. You present all these options just by constantly backdashing in these situations. See? He didn't attack, walk up again. Alright, delay, he waited for the XDP. Again, now we're back to this neutral space. Walk up, crouch medium punch, backdash. Alright. Walk back, buffer, backdash. He just checked a dash. Button, he walked back there, he didn't backdash there. And Nishkin decided to throw out a poke. That time, he did what was most likely another buffer with crouching medium punch, and then instead of doing a backdash, he did a light buffer. Or just a light punch, I guess. There, he did crouching medium kick, he didn't backdash, he didn't walk back and buffer, he sat there. Alright. There, he sat there again, he didn't even walk backwards. Now he's on defense, he's just looking for an opportunity to get back to neutral. Yeah, it's rough. Backdash. Oh, okay. So whiffs, and then he predicts a forward dash. So Nishkin's solution is he was expecting probably like another backdash or maybe he was expecting no action from Pugera since he whiffed. So all these situations he's created like very mundane guessing situations. Any action that he takes that puts him in this range. Am I going to stick at a button? Am I going to walk back button? Am I going to backdash and go back to hard neutral where you have no way in? Or am I going to continue to push the issue? Backdash. Clean. Anti-air. Button. Backdash. Button, backdash, oh, now. Button did not backdash, he did a buffer to catch any forward movement. If Nishkin decided to start dashing after his backdashes, that would have caught his forward dash. There we go. He beats a dash straight. Button, oh, delay button, got beaten by the crush counter. And, once again, a lot of his actions that he had taken, this is the first time he's ever gone for a stagger. He's done a button and then walked up and hit another button, right? And great recognition, one of the few Balrog players that would actually recognize this situation. He wasn't standing, so he couldn't have comboed into a screw smash except for EX, but he didn't have back charge because he just walked forward, so he cancels the button right into CA. Playing at this range again. Again, that screw smash is hard to get as an anti-air. Okay, that's punishable. But he dashed up into a low medium kick. Yeah, I don't think that works. Okay, backdash. Dash up. Okay, so there, he did dash straight, and instead of doing a delay button or a walk back or a backdash or anything like that, he immediately hit another attack. So constantly playing with a very loose spacing throughout the screen. And constantly trying to bait Nishkin into taking actions that will be easier to beat by making him want to chase the constant backdashing. Dash up. Stagger. That was sick. Low profile the dash punch. Dash up. That's what I was talking about just a little bit ago. Yep, that situation where you're plus, but you can't really take advantage of it, but you're still in range for the opponent's options. That's the exact scenario I was talking about. Weirdly enough, he didn't cancel it and trigger. I think he was trying to block confirm it, but messed up. Anyways, now I'll talk about this more when I cover reads, but unpredictability is fairly important and pretty different from just reads. You know, if you're very stationary and you try to occupy one range from your opponent all the time, it makes it much easier to control you and read you and harass you. When you play more unpredictably, you're not trying to bait out one specific thing, like with a read, but you're playing in a way that it's generally harder to pin down, and the opponent has moves that are riskier if they can't pin down where they're going to be, and you can punish and stop the opponent from doing as many things as they want to do. You're statistically less likely to get punished for being too predictable in your spacing and where you're going to be sitting. And with that, I think my more in-depth analysis of the mechanics of Footsies is finished. After this, it mostly comes down to aspects that are entirely mental. Your focus, your mental state, your reactions, your ability to create situations where your reactions matter, your ability to predict your opponent, and so on and so forth, which is a much more difficult subject to discuss than just the raw mechanics of the game.